Un turpinot mūsu tēmu par starpdisciplināro
And
sadarbību,
continuing the topic of interdisciplinary cooperation, which was like umbrella topic or a rule topic of what we do together. And from the first day of the project, from the very first conference, it was the name of the conference Kopā, which means in Latvian together, together one, together two, together three. In 2019, I had the first meeting with Zanda from the child hospital, the doctor who will give us a presentation today. We were discussing about the model of Bērna and what is important for doctors, for the medical professionals who are working in the university clinical child hospital. And I heard the words in that conversation, which partially were also heard in previous presentations. We want to be part of a team. Also, the doctors want to know what happened further with the child. We need that feeling of the shoulder by our side. We give the first aid. We register evidences if it's possible. And afterwards, we want to sleep peacefully at night, knowing that this case will go over to the police officer, to the prosecutor, that the child will have social rehabilitation, that he will get professional psychological aid. So that's what I heard back then from Zanda. And we had very, very long initial conversations. And now I'm very grateful that during the project we had such professionals by our side who continue the work in a real team, in a real life model, which is supported sustainably by the state. And it's my honor to present you next speaker. Now she is the head of the medical team of Bērna māja of the Bērna in Latvia. Hello.
Jā, man prieks būt šeit un prieks redzēt.
It's an honor and also a pleasure for me to see so many people and be here with you. And I will try to give you an overview how we, doctors, nurses, fit in that model and what we do in the Bērna. Today, listening to the colleagues from other countries, we are very sure that it's not like in Latvia, everything happens slow and bureaucracy obstacles are so high. Also in the other countries, this road to the establishing Bērna has been challenging, and that gives us some hope and power to continue. And see that in the future we have even more functional Bērna. Next slide, please.
Slaidiņu. Jā. Tātad bērnu slimnīcas lomu.
So the role of the children's hospital. No, but it's obvious that we are part of very challenging tasks. And when we see the improvements of the future life of the child, it gives a lot of resource to continue. And when we were getting ready for this model, we had a lot of internal discussion which professionals need to be involved in this for the children who are in Bērna. So we also needed to change the statistic data calculation. Different structural units were involved in the hospital. Also the IT security of the records in our IT system, that they wouldn't be available to everyone because it's a really sensitive information.
Nu, lūk, Un jāsaka tā, ka, protams, multidisciplināra komanda
And of course, multidisciplinary team is nothing new for us because mostly such teams work with chronic patients. And usually it does an interdisciplinary team within a medical profession. But in this project, it's a new level up multidisciplinary approach where before the initial discussion or before the child examination, we talk with representatives of different professions from the orphan court, social workers, police officers. And what makes us very happy as pediatricians, we always felt the true interest of everyone involved to get the best support for the child possible.
Jā, ejam varbūt tālāk.
We move on?
Es pat varu, jā?
Oh, I can do it myself, actually.
Ar lielo? Lielo. Uz kuriem man jātēm? Ir. Jā. Nu, lūk, un to, kāpēc mums
why
varbūt pietiek spēks un arī reizēs
we have enough energy even in difficult times to go on. Per aspera dastra
būtība, sūtība, nevar izdomāt, kurš vārds labāk būtu piemērots.
Describing the meaning of us as pediatricians, and it's also defined in the mission of our hospital. We mentioned that we want to do as much as possible for the more fulfilling life of a child, and also pediatrician functions are described in the so-called Bible or the Nelson's Manual for Pediatricians, that we are protectors of the children, and aside of any information, we need to be able to protect them and guard them. Who we are? We are 3 pediatricians, 2 children gynecologists, and 3rd doctor will soon come back from a very pleasant leave, and she will be ready to leave. So we will be 3 of us, and we have 3 nurses. Children, we have examined so far have been from 3 to 17 years old. In our statistics, there were 19 children. That's because the first girl was only examined by a gynecologist, not by a pediatrician. Our task as a doctors in a Bērna house is to do the patient examination. We cannot really tell them they are the patients. It's we are struggling with the right term. We as doctors are more used to the patients. They are more clients. We can do the examination in the peaceful environment without a hurry, how it sometimes happens in the polyclinics or in the emergency examination. And we do the examination from head to toes, looking for the evidences or not finding any evidences of the previous abuse or existing abuse, violence and abuse. And now the priority is with a possible sexual abuse, sexual violence. But often the different types of violence are the same case present. We can involve other specialists or do the radiology examination, so we can always. There's a nurse in the examination. She can take all the lab tests necessary, for instance, a blood test. I remember a family with 4 children where there, when the coordinator was sending us information, she mentioned you will hardly have any examination because they are all very scared of doctors. Maybe you shouldn't even try. So by the end, we really had a very good examination for all of them, and we had all the necessary tests, even though the children were terribly scared of the doctors initially. The presence of the relative or a friend or some other person are only with the child's consent, and when the child is ready to talk safely in front of this person. After we did the examination, we prepare a written opinion, written report of the examination, our observations, and it all is made in a summary. If we see a necessity to do extra examinations or tests or any other activities, we also give the statement to the legal representatives or parents. Depends on the case. And this opinion is available also in the patient's about the patient electronically. If we do some lab tests, then we agree during the meeting, we will let them know the results remotely, and we make a call to the legal representative, or they are asked to come in person for the repeated appointment. We had some concern talking about the challenges. We need to talk about something positive. But indeed, seeing how it happens in other countries, I understand that life is life, and from the child's well-being point, we didn't have it in past, but the child might need to go for some particular examinations that are not available in the Bērnhus premises. Starting to coordinate medical professionals. And before the real children started to come to the Bērnhus, I really had a concern that we will be able to plan all the specialists like pediatrician, gynecologist, nurse, all at the same time, because the time frame is 2-3 days in advance. And we need to take in account that the doctors have the many months in advance their appointment and surgeries calendar. But so far we succeeded to manage it and get the time slots so that the child gets all the services in the same day, avoiding the necessity to come back. Talking about IT solutions, as I already mentioned, we do the records of observations in the hospital IT system. Because every professional has authorized access to the information, and this authorization, we had to resolve it so we can keep this information discreet. And we so far have some doubts because our experience is very little. If what we write and what we are aware of, if our examination protocol is sufficient, and what if there will be not enough information for some further law enforcement procedures?
and also whether it is a complete information and how much we can gather information about a child. We find out prior to a child arriving, because if we have an identity code, we can find out about the information we have in the systems of the healthcare institutions. Maybe there have been trauma or some other reason to having been admitted or visited the hospital. So there's not been the difficulties of such kind. We've had the background information that we could receive and could impact and what we write in the protocol. So, what else? Upon listening to the colleagues from Norway, yes, it is a challenge, the dentistry and the dentist services in our hospital, in the children's hospital in Riga. They're not available, and we will have this challenge for the children to receive such service. And as I work in my everyday life, I also face acute cases, and well, there's usually how we are trained. If we have suspicion that there's been abuse or violence, we have to call the police, and we do, and we try to also communicate with the client. But actually, that was confusing that only a social worker can then appoint or send the child to this institution. But actually, I am trained to always report to the police. But now, thanks to Bērna and also being active there, I actually appreciate this alternative path there. And probably not always it is necessary to address the police with all the situations, but it is actually very valuable, and social workers maybe can then clarify if involvement of the police is even necessary. And so, as I mentioned, 18 children have been this is the data from social service. Thank you, Zanda. And I have to mention that these are not particular children, but this is the amount of types of abuse. So one child may have several types of abuse included in the statistics. And these numbers do talk about how many more children we will have to admit in the house, and 18 is only the beginning.
Tāda neliela personīga atkāpe.
And one personal story. Several years ago, in Dārdadze, it was in 2014, but actually I think it was even earlier. Accidentally, I don't remember how, but I got to the training about child abuse, and there was once the story about one-stop agency, how good it is for a child, and in Dārdadze it all works like that, and I was certain that it does work like that, and the children do receive such service, and I shared with colleagues and said, oh, this is the case of abuse of violence. They would have to go to Dārdadze to receive this service. But then, as Bērna project became more active, I actually understood that I've been living in an illusion. But so that's what my destiny has brought me to here, and I now understand more and more broadly how it all works. And I do actually hope that there will be ever less children who need our services, but if they do, then I really hope for them to receive it in the best possible way, that is in Bērna.
Paldies. Un jāsaka, ka mums tiešām ir jāuzteic Bērnu klīniskās.
And I also must say that the Children's Hospital and their social service, we need to praise it, because for years they are gathering the statistics about the cases that come to the hospital, and they do separate the 4 types as it was seen on the slides. And this is like an example for other regional hospitals, because they maybe not all institutions gather such kind of data and such statistics, and it is difficult then for later research, as much as I've been trying to also gather for my research purposes. That would really help if we could connect together this data. At the same time, we need to remember about the data protection, and but again, in children's hospital, maybe there is a case of a child who's admitted there, but previously they have been admitted to some regional hospital with other cases, and we may not have this information. But again, well, we are grateful for identifying and being aware of such cases. That we have also found that it's not always easy for a doctor, for a medical doctor, to report, because, well, there is an internal database and system where the healthcare specialist can make note of certain indicators, say this is actually a red flag, and report it at least to the colleagues. And there have been experience that if the doctor has reported and they see, yes, it's not good and there have been abuse, but they don't want to. So, like, if they have already once spent their time to communicate it through their case, they actually don't want to repeatedly go to law enforcement institution, maybe because they believe, or that is the case in the case, that nothing changes. But this is one of the topics, and at the same time, we see that there is a potential for the future.